Hey there, this is Dr. Pam Perry, and we have a great show. We have a strategic storyteller, not just a storyteller, but a strategic storyteller, Robert Kennedy III. No, not that Robert Kennedy III. This is a different one. This is the main one that is going to be talking about speaking. So we're going to bring him up right after this. There you go. There you go. How are you, sir?
Life is grand. Hold on one second. You know I got to do the thing. Hold on one second. Here we go.
What is that?
This is the thing. You know what I mean?
Hey.
You know what I mean?
Okay. All right, you're just showing off.
Hey.
I love it. That is too cute. They were in there doing the thing.
Doing it.
Hey, you got to get me because I have a Rodecaster over here, and I have it, and it's been sitting up here on the office desk, but have not.
What is wrong, Pam? I mean, listen.
I know.
You could do all sorts of fun. Look, get your Rodecaster up because you could start to talk
on your show like that if you want.
You can do all sorts of craziness on your show. You can make it interesting. Come on, Pam.
I know. Well, I do have this one thing that I just finished today, and everyone knows that I'm really doing PR and that kind of thing. So this is a voiceover from a friend of mine that just recently passed in August. So it was hard for me to really put his voice to a lot of my stuff, but it's a way to honor him. So I'm going to play this right now, and then we're going to come back to you, Robert.
Are you an author or a speaker or a subject matter expert wanting more exposure for your brand? Well, here's the secret. Get the media talking about you. Want to know how to get quick media coverage? Get media coverage so you can amplify your reach. Want to know how to get 500 plus media placements and 400 million audience reach? Dr. Pam Perry is offering guaranteed PR coverage with her quick media coverage PR packages. Dr. Pam Perry is a master publicity strategist that shows speakers and experts how to get seen, get heard, and get noticed so they can get paid. If you want immediate guaranteed publicity, go to quickmediacoverage.com. That's quickmediacoverage.com now.
So that was Bob Ivory. He was my creative director. He passed. He'd been ill for many, many years. But August, he got his wings and went on with the Lord. And so that is his voice. The video he did not do. That was just kind of like a slideshow that had someone else do. But he did all of the voice, so all of the creative. He designed this banner. So his creative imprint is on everything. Speakers Magazine and PamPerryPR.com. So anyway, so that is it. You know, a lot of times I'll have so I'll have like little things like that, and it's like little toys that I like to play with. Yes, that one.
Now I'm pulling it up on my iPad here. So
oh my goodness. Yeah, that is the thing. So let's talk a little bit about Robert Kennedy. I know that you were previous president of Black NSA. You're part of NSA, National Speakers Association. I put that in the description for the YouTube. But more than that, you really a trainer, a teacher. You use your voice. You love, obviously, a lot of voice equipment. A little bit of background about how this all kind of got started for you. What was the epiphany, I guess you would say? One day it says, you know what, I think I'm going to do this for a living.
You know what? I don't know if there was one epiphany moment. It was an organic growth or a journey. I think what happened was people kept asking me the same question. Are you a speaker? What else do you talk about? What else do you speak about? So I had an e-learning, a course development company where we were building online courses for government orgs and other private organizations. And as a part of that, I would start to do technical training about a specific software because companies were saying, hey, can you not just build the program for us? Can you teach us how to do it? So every time I would teach a class, people would say, hey, are you a motivational speaker? Do you speak? Do you? And at that point, this was in the early 2010s ish, somewhere thereabouts. And I had no idea that there was a career called professional speaking. I didn't really even know about motivation. I mean, I'd heard about like a Les Brown, I'd heard about a Zig Ziglar, but outside of that, I didn't know a lot of other people who were making a living doing just this. And so when people kept asking me that question, I didn't have any response. I didn't know. And so I finally decided at one point that I was going to dig in a little bit. And the only place that I knew that I could get information about becoming a better speaker was Toastmasters. So I joined Toastmasters. So that was the genesis of the journey.
That is, Toastmasters is a genesis for a lot of professional speakers, Toastmasters. And then there's organizations like Black Speakers Network.
Right.
There's even like a Women's Speakers Association. Of course, there's NSA, and then attached to that is a Black NSA with Lethea Owens. She's a president. But I really wanted to have you on during Black History Month, especially because the Black NSA mission is really to help those who are people of color, African American descent, African Americans, those that are really, like you said, when in 2010, you didn't realize that was a thing. Now, obviously, there have been a lot of Les Browns that had been in it before. And even if you could put, I guess, Martin Luther King, but he was more or less like a pastor, a civil rights activist. But Blacks have been speaking for a long time, starting with speaking out, Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, those kind of things. And so I really feel like today, because of the climate of anti-DEI and anti a lot of Black type of programming, that Black History Month, I'm so glad it did not, quote, get canceled, that we have Blacks that speak out and speak up on the topics that are near and dear, because I don't think people just speak just to be speaking. Like you said, are you a motivational speaker? People were asking you that because you're moving them to do something.
Right.
And what are the things that move you as a Black man that see that, the audience that maybe you love to speak to, or some of the ideas that you like to get across to your audiences so that they understand the mission of Blacks in America, over the last 4 or 5 centuries, there have been a lot of things that we've gone through, and we've seen all of the challenges and all the changes, and again, some more changes. But what are some of the things that you really want your audiences to know when they hear Robert Kennedy III?
Yeah. So there are a lot of different careers that people could get themselves involved in. You can be a nurse, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer, a lot of different things you can do with your life. But it doesn't seem like anything moves the needle as much as when somebody speaks, right? When change happened in the civil rights movement, it was because somebody decided that they were going to speak up. When change happens now, it's because somebody decides that they're going to speak up. Whatever their platform is, that's when transformation takes place. I speak to a lot of business owners, and some of them are struggling with marketing. They're struggling with getting their message out there or letting people know about the products that they have. And I say, listen, the best the best promotional tool that you have is your voice.
Mm-hmm.
If you speak, you can call people on the phone. Yes, that's great. You can have one-on-one conversations. You can have 100 one-on-one conversations, or you could speak one time to 100 people.
Yes.
And you can make a bigger impact just with that conversation or with that speech. And so if you have the ability to open your mouth and utter sound, right? I truly believe that is a skill set that everybody should work on. I've got 3 kids, and that's the one thing I say to my kids. Listen, I don't care what your major is. You're taking a public speaking class. You're taking a speech class. You're taking a communications class.
That is, right? You're going to go to Junior Toastmasters if there is a thing.
Yeah. You business, engineering, you could say, listen, I'm studying janitorial sciences. I don't care. You are taking a speech, a public speaking, a communications class, because that is the one thing that is not only going to get you ahead, it's going to create influence for you. And it's the one thing that almost anybody can do to
Mhm.
help to create change and transformation.
It is, and one of your background when you were creating the programs, you were teaching, you were training,
Hmm.
you were speaking with people, getting them comfortable with the software,
Yeah.
and a lot of speakers are coaches, so they have to speak. A lot of them are trainers, so they do train, and they train in different areas. So I think that when we are talking about, "Oh, I want to be a speaker," we're not necessarily thinking that you have to be a Les Brown. There's only one
Right.
Les Brown or Willie Jolly or, those kind of things, Simon Bailey. Now I'm naming names,
Yeah.
John Register. Okay,
Yeah.
but those kind of people that take the mic and actually are on stage and they motivate and they inspire. But there's so many other careers that have to do with you speaking that
Yeah.
I want people to really understand that it's not just about you taking the mic and, being the rock star on the stage, but
Yeah.
you are really making that influence and teaching and coaching and when I think about The Audacity of Hope, the book that President Barack Obama wrote many years ago. That was a
Yeah.
book that just took sail, right? And just really set him on a national stage. And then Oprah, obviously putting them on the national stage. So there are people that speak that we wouldn't know about the changes that they're making in society unless they do speak. And when we're saying speaking, when you said it's something that people should learn, they have to master their ums that they meant that Toastmaster makes you count, right? They make you count that in Toastmasters. But there's other things as well that speakers have to understand in terms of language, movement. I mean, we're kind of like in a box right now, so we can't really show how we move. But tell us about some of the speaking lessons, or maybe the top 3 things that speakers need to master. Uh,
Wow. The top 3 things that speakers need to master are, and this is going to sound funny, the beginning, the ending, and the middle.
well, the beginning first, because you have to get their attention. I get it, and then
Yes.
how they end up, it's like, what is the call to action?
Yeah.
Middle, don't put people to sleep.
Right.
But
Right.
but one
So,
of the things that I think I'm gonna say this, you have a
yeah.
great voice.
Thank you.
Was it a natural voice? Because there are people that have voice lessons, but
Yeah.
was this a natural voice for you de to develop?
So I would say that there are some people that have privilege in life, and my privilege is that I'm a PK. So I'm a preacher's kid. So I've been around microphones and speaking styles and formats my entire life. And on top of that, I am a musician. I was going to say I
Ah,
was a musician. So
okay.
I've done voice lessons. I sang, wrote music, done a whole lot of different stuff. And so
Good.
the
That's
use
good.
of the voice and the diaphragm and the internal capacity to get the tonality that you want and the pacing and all of that are things that I've been trained in and walked through. So, and there was also a passion that I had for quite a while, and I didn't really know where the passion came from, but I did radio for a bit. So I was a news anchor for an AM station for a little bit when I was in my younger days, and I just always had an interest in broadcast in some way. And so I, maybe without intention, there was some things that came to mind for me to do or to train myself in that ended up with what we've got now.
Yeah. That is really there are speakers like Les Brown has a natural baritone voice
Yeah.
that just captures. Willie Jolly he's another Hall of Fame speaker that came from the music industry.
Yeah.
He's a singer, he has a voice. So that voice quality. Now, I always think my voice is a little bit high, so I have to make sure that I bring it down some. There are some people who have a high pitched voice just naturally.
Mhm.
Is there a way for a woman who has a high squeaky voice to be trained so that it's not chalk on the wall for an audience and not so squeaky?
So let's use a reference from the 80s or the 90s. Do you remember the singer Michelet?
Michelet.
So Dr. Dre discovered her, and I forgot what song she sang, but her speaking voice was like like really chipmunk. But then when she sang, she had this super powerful like mezzo alto voice.
Yeah, kind of like Fantasia, I guess, in a way.
Well, no, it was drastic. She sounded when you heard her speak, her speaking voice was almost like a chipmunk.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Look up Michelle. Like the word Michelle, but there's an apostrophe between the two L's, right?
Okay.
Look up Michelle, and you'll hear her speaking voice and her singing voice are very different. The reason I bring that up is because our vocal folds can be trained. Our voice range and our voice tonality can be trained. There's a reason that Michael Jackson spoke in a higher register. There were times when he wasn't singing, when he wasn't doing concerts, that his voice tone was a little bit lower. But when he knew he had to go into do concerts, etc., he would speak intentionally in a higher range so that he could hit higher notes. And it's a matter of training. When I have to sing, so one of the things I do sometimes is I lead praise and worship at my church. When I know that I've got to lead praise and worship and I've got to do the lead, I talk a little bit differently because it expands the range of my voice. If I know that I've got to sing in a group or in a choir where I'm singing baritone, I'm a natural baritone. If I know I've got to sing baritone or bass, I talk as little as possible. And when I do talk, I make sure that I'm talking in a lower register because that brings out the bass or the bass tonality in my voice. It tightens or loosens the vocal folds, so it allows you to produce, the range that you want.
Yes. Dr. Angela Hardmack says, yes, music gives you the appreciation for phrasing and modulation.
Yeah.
She's actually a medical doctor, so she understands that, and a speaker as well. So that is what I kind of see a little bit with you as well. And then also too, I've seen your speaker reel. I see that you command the stage. You're very animated, that you use the full stage. You kind of, I don't say you make it funny, but you do seem to make it fun for the audience. So that is something that you learned or something that came natural because you're just an animated person?
So a lot of what you see is a result of my experiences. I was a teacher. I was a high school teacher for 8 years. And so when you're in a classroom all day with high school students, my goodness, if you're bored, then they're going to be bored. Right? So half the time I was like, oh gosh, how can I have some fun today? How can I make this day enjoyable for me? And so when I'm on stage, it's a lot of the same things. How do I create engagement? How do I create an experience for the audience members? And I create an experience for them by first creating an experience for me.
Yes. Yes.
Right. If I'm not having fun, if I'm not passionate, if I'm not enjoying myself, if I'm not laughing, I mean, I could tell a joke, I could say something, and if the audience doesn't laugh, I'm be like, listen, I don't care about y'all. I thought that was funny. I'm laughing.
Like H.B. Sanders, he would say, it was funny to me.
It was funny to me. Yeah. And then what happens is people, they just begin to laugh because they realize, number one, you're not taking yourself so seriously that, you're afraid to be comfortable or connected with them. And so when they see that authenticity coming through, then it's easier for them to identify with you as a regular, real person who understands some of the challenges and experiences that they're having.
You know what? You have just really just listened to you.
Mhm.
I have heard the recipe for the soup, for your secret sauce of what really makes you a phenomenal speaker. One was being a PK. So like you said, you've always been around the mics. Two
Yeah.
was the voice, vocal quality, singing, and the command of the stage, or the speaking to kids.
Yeah.
Okay, because kids will let you know if you're boring, and you can't be boring. And I will say there's a few speakers that I know that spoke to youth. One is Lynetta Houston,
Mhm.
Dr. Delatoro McNeil. These are people that have been in the Speakers Magazine. Ariel Moody, they did youth speaking.
Yeah.
And they are very entertaining. And my coach from years ago, he got his speaking career started by doing junior achievement. Okay, I
Yeah.
don't know if anybody remember junior achievement, but you would go into the schools and you have to talk to the kids, and kids will let you know, like, oh my God, they'll roll their eyes, they don't care, they'll yawn in your face. I mean, adults probably could, but they have a little bit more crude. So those are the things that I see, in terms of the visual.
Yeah.
You use props when you speak. A lot of speakers use props. I use props sometimes like this. There you go. A
Hold
clapper.
on.
A clapper is
Hold
good.
on. Hold
And
on. Hold
then
on.
I
Yo,
have a little mic as well.
look at this. Hold on. Y'all that are watching this show, make sure that you go ahead on and you subscribe to the channel.
Oh my God. Okay. Then I also have a
and
magic
you
wand.
share this out, right? So that you can, and if you happen to be a member of this show and Pam can't hear you, just get that message out that you're on mute. Yeah. So
Oh, I need one of those. I need one of those for my Zoom meetings. It was
yes.
for my podcast, but
Yeah.
my Zoom meetings, you're on mute. You're trying to talk and you're. I love
Yeah.
it. That is so cool. But yeah,
Yeah. So sometimes I use props, but one of the things that being a teacher allowed me to really understand was not children, people have several different learning modalities. They can be kinesthetic learners, they can be auditory learners, they can be visual learners. So if I'm looking to create engagement, I want to utilize as many of those modalities as possible. And especially if I've got a point to make, I want to make that point utilizing each of those modalities. So the other day I was speaking for the Michigan Realtors Association, and I wanted to make the point about connectedness and what we can do together. And I shared some information about it. I spoke about it. I also had them do something where they sang a song or did something together. Okay, I'm sorry. We got balloons coming. Yeah. All right. And then I also had them do the wave. If you've ever been in a stadium, yes, I literally ran across the room and had them do the wave while we were in there. And so it did several things. Number one, it brought up the energy in the room. Number two, it allowed them to visually see a point that I was making about community and connectedness and when people are able to work together. So as a speaker, I'd rather you have 1 point, 2 points, maximum 3 points that you're making, and some auditory, kinesthetic, and visual representatives of those points than you saying, listen, I'm going to speak for in 60 minutes and I'm going to jam you up with 49,000 different data points, charts, pie charts, bar graphs. And yes, just to show you how smart and how learned I am. Listen, people ain't going to remember all that. No. I want to be memorable. I want them to move and change and do something different after our experience together. So how do I land that? How do I create that something that causes that to sit?
I love that. That is really the main thing. That's why you said, what are the things that they're opening, their close, and then making sure that their middle has the entertainment factor. Yeah. Even if it is something that's serious, you can still make it so that people aren't bored to tears, because no one wants to be bored to tears. That's right. Just, it's like being in solitary, and that's what they use to punish people. when you want to get somebody really, really crazy and you put them in solitary. So you don't want to make people feel like you're listening to you and they've been put in solitary.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you're doing that. I do want to give a shout out. You were asking, like, was that my phone dinging? Yes, that was my phone dinging. I have a Mac, so the messages come through. Today is my father-in-law's 95th birthday, and so the family is on group chat, and they're doing all the things that he's having a lunch and all that kind of stuff, and they're just like so excited. So if you go to our Facebook page, which is where a lot of family stuff is, you'll see his video of his he has such a great life. He's in great shape. He's 95.
That's beautiful.
And my mother-in-law, she as well, they're having like a great time. Daddy loves to party. He taught Spanish. He has a master's degree. He's been in the Army. I mean, he was a Hall of Famer in his high school football. I mean, just my daughter's writing a story about him. I mean, it's really like he has a phenomenal life, and he's still having a phenomenal life. So anyway, so happy birthday, Lawrence Perry. The happy birthday to you shout out. So that is what that buzzing sound is going on. that's doing all of those things. But one of the things Dr. Angela says that you use interaction and engagement. And
Yeah.
that's really, really key for any speaker. You don't want to fire hose people with a lot of information. You don't want them to walk away thinking like, well, they're so smart, but I didn't get anything out of it. So the main thing that you want to do is transformation for the audience, is what you said that you do. And
Yeah.
that's one of the main things that that you do. So in terms of Black History Month, I know a lot of speakers were speaking on DEI. A lot of them are, doing a lot of those type of speeches. And a lot of them I've seen even on LinkedIn, they were saying, oh my goodness, it got canceled, this got canceled, whatever, whatever, because of the current administration. Have you ever seen a time like this? And what advice would you give to speakers that are in that space?
Wow, that's a tough question. I don't know that I've seen a time like this from a industry and topic perspective. I do liken it though to the pandemic and when things shifted for speakers
Yeah.
in 2020. So in March of 2020, in a 24 to 48 hour period, my business shifted about 60 to $80,000 because there was just everything was canceled. Right. And I could understand if people said, oh, you're coming to speak for us in, April, and we're not sure what's going to happen, so we're canceling that. People were canceling stuff all the way out to like September. Right. Stuff was just canceled. So
Yeah,
a lot of speakers at the time were like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? There were some speakers that by the time it rolled around to May, they were like, listen, I'm burning through my savings, and I'm going to just go back and get a regular job because I can't do this stuff. They've been speaking for 20 plus years, and they were like, I don't know how to change my model. What ended up happening for me was that I saw that my kids were sitting at home and their teachers were trying to go to virtual learning. And after a week of seeing what the teachers were doing, I was like, this is garbage. This is not good. Right. And so I said, there was one teacher that was trying to do teleconference. They weren't even up to Zoom yet. They were trying to do a teleconference on the phone with I said, oh Lord. So I decided, okay, let me teach them how to do this. So I teach one teacher how to do it. The teacher's like, you should do this for the whole school. I said, okay, cool, fine. We set something up. I do it for the whole school, or all the teachers in the school. They're like, you should do this for the district. I said, okay, cool. The superintendent calls me. We set it up to do it for the district. He's like, yeah, you should do this for other district. I'm like, okay, cool. So then I end up doing this for different school districts. And after a little bit, I'm doing some work called how to create vibrant virtual experiences. And, so now I'm doing this for not just school districts. I'm doing it for summer camps. There were some of the parks and rec departments that normally hold outdoor summer camps that year that now had to hold them virtually. And so I'm teaching them how to not just hop on Zoom or Teams and deliver stuff, but how do you do it in a way that engages people and creates an experience where they feel like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of in person. So I was doing those types of things, and that enabled me to create some engagement or some pivot in my business. So now we're at a space where they're like, okay, DEI, cut that. Okay, cool. The title is cut, but the behavior hasn't shifted. The need for it hasn't shifted. So how do you do the work?
But change the language.
But change the language or change the lane or innovate in the way that you deliver it. The need is still going to there until there is equity, until every human being is treated and given the same opportunities, until privilege is erased. There is always going to be a need for people to speak truth to power. There's going to be a need for people to say, okay, hey, you're not aware of this. You have implicit bias. You have this, you're doing this, and this group of people isn't being given the same amount of opportunity. How can we, create awareness and intention around that?
So really what you're saying is leadership training, which is your sweet spot anyway, is really helping leaders. That is really it.
Yep.
Whether we call it DEI or justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, it is leadership. I
Yeah.
have one client, Omar L. Harris, and he talks about intentional leadership. And before, a lot of times he was talking about DEI, but if that is like a term that is not popular right now, then we can switch it. But like you said, you have to make the pivot because the content is still there, the need is still there. You're still
Yeah.
solving a solution for corporations and organizations and government entities or whatever it is that needs that particular thing. So I love that. So that's how you make the pivot. I love the pivot that you talked about during the pandemic of
Yeah.
how like you saw a need, and that's a true entrepreneur. That is really a true entrepreneur, that you see a problem and then you figure out a way to solve it, and then you solve it in mass. You wash, rinse, and repeat.
Yep.
You wash, rinse, and repeat.
Yep.
And that's one of the things with Speakers Magazine. I saw that there was a problem with not a lot of African American speakers being I guess you would say, being on the cover of the magazines.
Yeah.
And instead of waiting for the table, for them to invite us to the table, I created the table. And so Speakers Magazine, going on 8 years old, is one of the things that I want to make sure that people are featured in the
Yeah.
magazine, that they are actually seen in the magazine, that you wrote a column for us. I think maybe about 5 years ago now, Robert.
Yeah.
You got to write a new column now. That it's been featured so that your voices are heard.
Yeah.
And that's really
Let me add to that. I think sometimes what happens in moments like this, people get stuck and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do? I know I need to do something, but I don't know what I need to do." If I think about my pandemic experience, I wasn't really thinking about what I needed to do. There was just something happen. There was something happening that I knew I had the ability to help with or to support. And if we can go Bible for a second, when it talks about that your gift will make room for you, right? If you have a gift or something that prompts your heart, if you see an issue that happens and you're like, I can help with that. I can problem solve that. I can create a solution for that. Lean into it, do it, move towards it, because that is much better than kind of sitting in analysis paralysis, sitting in your seat and wondering what you need to do next that's going to make money. Listen, if you do something that is in your gift or in your calling and you don't make money for it, it's the same as you sitting and doing nothing, but at least you'll make a difference in the lives of other people.
Mhm. It's like one of the favorite parts of the Bible that talks about your talents.
Yep.
Making sure that you use your talents. Don't hide them.
Yep.
That you want to make sure that you are using your talents. And if you don't, you're just, the Bible says you're wicked.
Yep.
So you want to make sure you're using your talent. So
Yep.
those are like the main things. So I just love what you're doing. I put the link there, but they can also visit you at robertkennedy3.me as well.
Yep.
So that you can actually connect with people, and actually
Mhm.
you do individual coaching and training as well.
Yeah, I do less individual coaching these days because most of what I do is in the training space, and I do more with groups and audiences at conferences. But if there are people that need some individual work, then yeah, we can figure it out.
Good. All right. So robertkennedy3.me. Thank you so much for joining Speakers Magazine show today. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and also my favorite spot as well on LinkedIn. So with
Yeah.
that, thank you so much for joining us today. People, I want people to go to robertkennedy3.me as well. And thank you so much for joining us today, and also giving us that advice and that really inspirational story about you and the new business model that basically just kind of like, that was a God thing. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll talk with you soon.
All right. Thank you, Pam. Have a fantastic day.
All right. Bye-bye.